Best behavior.
Currently, we're trying to get everybody admitted in, and there seems to be some people aren't able to get in.
Should I reach out to Alicia?
No, I think it's something on their side.
Okay.
And we'll maybe start in 2 minutes at 5 past.
Hey Todd, for your reference, in the more actions, those three dots, there's an option there where it says turn off incoming video. So you could do that when you share your part. I'll do that once we move on to the slides too.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Okay. It's about almost 5 past the hour, and I think we can get started.
Let's do it.
Nobody's in the waiting room at the moment. So, thank you everybody for attending. ServiceNow's digital transformation of the risk management framework, NIST 837. Today speakers will be Haas Chowdhury as our senior solution consultant in federal, and Todd Huber, who's also the senior solution consultant for federal risk. I cover ServiceNow security offerings, but I'm here to help with all questions and things like that. So to get this started, just as a brief introduction to both of our presenters, we brought Haas and Todd on specifically for their backgrounds. They've both had experience in the government around risk management framework, around the ANA and authorization processes. Haas has a background as a federal employee and a government contractor for most of his years. Everything from an information system security owner, CDM program manager lead, assessor, and system owner, serving multiple departments and agencies from the DoD to Department of Homeland and VA and others. Todd also has a long-time background as a federal employee and an ANA practitioner. Started his days way back when DIACAP was still a manual process. Everything was paper-driven, and then seeing it evolve into the risk management framework and currently into what Gartner's coined as the integrated risk management process. He capped his federal service as an ANA lead to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So with them leading the charge on this demo, I think we'll have a lot of good information coming out. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll either pull them up for audio or we can answer them in line. Thanks, Haas.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben, for that introduction. Yeah, so today really we're here to talk about digital transformation of RMF. For a lot of us on here, from the registration list, I saw a lot of us do have that security and risk background. So part of this might be a little remedial because we're going to jump into the different steps of the RMF, how they kind of work together, and what we've seen just in the world today. Right? And if you guys have any good stories you can share, please let's make this a bi-directional conversation, right? So I'd like to start off with the funnest slide on here, which is talking about the challenges, right? What have we been seeing over the past 10, 15 plus years, right? Ever since NIST was created, right? And then what that means for the federal government from an RMF, from a risk management framework perspective. Now, in my experiences, this is whether you're in security or not, just in general, manual processes kind of plague the federal government and many other agencies as well. But it's very critical and very important when we're talking about security and risk, from a holistic perspective, to really understand what that means for the challenges in the long run, right? As systems are continuously innovating, as the government is continuously innovating, and really there's growth, the ability to keep up with that growth, with that speed of innovation, it's really hampered by having these types of manual processes. So when we talk about challenges around manual processes and things not being automated, things not being able to be orchestrated through automated processes and systems, it really does have a trickle-down effect to what that means from a security posture perspective and even an understanding perspective, right? Secondly, I want to talk about the lack of visibility, right? We live in a world where that visibility is really the challenge of a lot of our professional services, right? A lot of our security processes. How do we bubble this up to the right people at the right time so they can make the right decisions? Not being able to have that, not having the systems in place to actually make that a reality, that can also lead to that trickle down effect where we really want to move away from. And really, in today's world where we're seeing so much automation, so much innovation, it's really not. There really is an excuse to kind of stay in that framework. Sorry, I see my video still, and I'll go ahead and turn that off so you can get a full picture of the slides. Can everyone still see my slides? All right.
We can.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you. All right, where was I? The lack of visibility. Yep. So, and then the other thing we've seen is that when these traditional legacy GRC, right, governance, risk, compliance, traditionally, when those types of tools were created and put into play, integration really was an afterthought, right? The idea was, how do we capture the information we need to understand our risk posture? But that capturing was again manual. That ability to integrate wasn't really there. There wasn't the ability to speak to other systems. And actually, I've worked in groups where it was flat out told to us that there really is no ability to call an API, right? We really can't get even basic information from other systems. So how do we remedy that in a time where really, to be interconnected, to have that interoperability that comes from having deep integrations with the systems that we work on, especially to protect our agencies and ultimately the American people, is how I see it, right? When we're dealing with federal systems, right? How do we get that? How do we actually bring that into this industry that we've been working on so hard and diligently to promote? And then finally, when we're talking about continuous monitoring, right? We're trying to let processes fill the gap of where technology should be able to fill the gap, right? So what that means is we have been looking at it from a 1/3 controls, 1/3 perspective, so that after a course of 3 years, a system is finally assessed, right? Finally authorized. Now, in that way, the assumption has been, or the old assumption has been, a system doesn't change that often, that quickly. But times are changing, right? With new low-code, no-code applications out there, application development platforms out there, also like what we provide with ServiceNow, the ability to change on the fly is becoming the norm, and actually it's not going to slow down anytime soon. So these are some of the challenges I've seen in the past few years, and it's actually increasing rapidly, as we continue. I wanted to take just a quick pause and see from our guests. Do we have any other challenges that are kind of piping up, or would you agree with these challenges that we've listed here already? I think there's like a vote button here where you can vote with a show of hands. All right, a couple. All right, cool. Yeah, so I'll try to give some opportunities for engagement throughout, so that it's not just a one way spiel here, because that always makes things more fun, right? All right, so after this, really after the challenges, I want to go into what the process looks like today, what we've seen in the market, in the industry, and then where we kind of fit from a high level as ServiceNow, as a digital workflow automation platform, and how we're able to address now some of these needs and some of these challenges, right, in the marketplace with our new continuous authorization and monitoring platform program. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. So for those of you in the risk policy world, this should be very, very familiar. These are the 7 steps for RMF, right? And arguably, this is probably the most important, right? Preparing and categorizing, understanding what it is you're protecting in the first place. And as the saying goes, right, you can't shoot what you can't see. You can't protect also what you can't see either, right? Or what you don't know about. And so really setting yourself up for to have all the right pieces in play is essential to having a good RMF practice, right? And today, when we're looking at this, right, there's a lot of collaboration that needs to take place. There's a lot of understanding of a deep understanding of what systems are out there, what types of data are you protecting, right? Are there interconnections with other groups, and what are their levels of risk, right? What are they taking on? And then where's the accountability, right? What's the roles and responsibilities of the people that all have to support that system? And understanding that and getting to that point in time is really the best way to lay the groundwork so that you have a baseline of then beginning the process to try to actually authorize a system and assess it correctly. Now, in this phase right here, I'm sure all of us can probably share some multitude of stories, right? But let me give an example here, or let me ask a question here. And I promise I won't do this for every slide, but when you're doing your categorization, right? Do you guys see that in your respective agencies or customers? Do you see that there's a very clear delineation amongst the system owners? Is it a very easy answer when you ask them, what would you categorize your data types as? Or do you get more of the what's a data type, or overshooting potentially, right? Oh, my data is the most important in the world. Give it all the security you can, whatever that means, right? Well, what do you guys see out there? Kamal, I see you're putting on mute. Do you have an answer?
No, we're good.
Hello?
Yes.
Right, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Yeah, so question on the floor is when you reach out to your system owners trying to understand what types of data is out there, is it a clear answer, or are people usually confused and not really sure what that even means? What have you seen?
Most times it's clear answers. They know what kind of data they process within the system. And sometimes you have to elaborate and give what further example on the data types and what kind of information the system processes.
Yep. So part of that is the knowledge issue as well, right? Understanding that we live in the world of security, but our system owners may not, right? So yeah, definitely, I've seen that as well, where they know what they have, but they don't really necessarily know how that aligns with the questions being asked of them, right? Usually they're just presented with a questionnaire, and then here, go through this, and then we'll have everything we need, right? Thank you for being our first volunteer, Kamal. Appreciate that. Wish we had some gifts to give out to you.
No problem.
All right, I'll move on to the next one. All right, so then we're selecting and implementing. Once we understand what our system really is consisting of, right now it's what do we understand as the essential controls, right? What needs to be assessed? What parts of the system? Where is it that we need to put our focus? And then where do we trust other systems of engagement to be that global inheritance, right? What types of trust relationships do we have? And then do we have visibility into not just our controls, but then what they're responsible for as well? Who else are we relying on? That type of visibility usually is not is not as smooth when we're talking about integrating our typical legacy GRC systems, because every system is usually seen in its own silo, right? It's the process is done in such a way where you're actually focused, you're almost laser focused on your own systems or your own applications, but not really worrying much about, you know, all the other and not really able to get the full details of all these interconnected systems that may be at play. And then finally, the assessment and authorization piece, right? When we have, you know, I guess we've done all the pre-work. Now the fun begins, right? Getting all the people together, trying to stick to a timeline to assess and test these controls, and then once that testing happens, right, whether it's on schedule or not, figuring out what needs to actually be corrected, what types of POAMs are coming out of them, what types of risks are we going to accept, and what's the guidelines for that, right? How are we actually going to move forward so that we can get that authorization? So let me ask another question here, and this is going to be a freebie for most of all, I'm sure. How many of us, when we've been doing these assessment programs or projects, going out for these tours, right? How many of us have had all of our systems come in on schedule? I can't even say that without laughing. How many of us have seen it come on schedule? Now that is a rhetorical question, obviously, right? If anybody's raising their hand, I really do want you to tell me. No, I'll pause for a sec. No, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's almost never the case, right? Because you're not able to communicate across the different teams, right? All the people that need to be engaged. Sometimes there's knowledge gaps, as we mentioned before, right? That people just don't know accurately what they need to be doing on their end, right? What artifacts are you actually looking for? Sometimes the timelines change because there's so many people that you don't even know if half of them are on PTO or not, right? Simple scheduling and organizational issues, right? But the idea is that without having the ability to be on a single platform, you're not really able to engage at a level of efficiency where you can just lean on systems and processes in place to make sure that everything gets done on time, the right time, the first time, right? And those are also kind of some of the challenges that we've seen that we try to address with processes, and I've seen them, you know, enacted in some places better than others. But you know, how can we fix that? Is there a way forward where these can be actually done on a common platform? And obviously that's what we'll be getting into later on today. And then finally, once we've got that authorization, and now we need to move forward, right? We're in play. How do you get that Kanban experience? How do you get that continuous authorization, right? And how do you keep all your controls monitored in real time? Or does real time or does continuous monitoring really just mean consistent assessing, you know, piecemeal at a time over a certain time frame of 3 years or what have you, right? What is the reality that we're seeing today? Yeah, I'm telling you, this is probably changing very fast, and we are going to be changing very fast, and we are proud to be a part of that change, that digital transformation of RMF. And this is really where we'll be showing today how our platform can shine by leveraging the different capabilities that we're already using in different parts of the industry across IT and more. Really, now we're just going to be pointing the power of the platform to continuous authorization to bring all of these pieces together to really have a true continuous authorization model and the capability to do that. So that's what I'm excited about showing you guys today. And we'll be working with our expertise in Todd to kind of show us what that means on the product side. Now, before we get into that and I hand over the mic, I wanted to show you a quick overview of really what our platform contains. For those of you that are new to ServiceNow, you may not be familiar with all of the areas where we actually have an impact. But if you know nothing else, the one takeaway about our platform is that we are considered the digital workflow platform for enterprise. And what that means is it's not just IT that we're trying to impact the workflows on, but at our customers, we've seen that they're able to actually transform the way employees work and their customers perceive them, all based on how they're able to automate workflow processes through our platform. And in its essence, we're really a application platform as a service, meaning we're able to bring rapid application development that allows you to take advantage of all the different pre-built configurations and platform capabilities that we have, and then point it at different business problems that need to be addressed, whether that's adding workflow and integrations to HR or adding mobile capabilities to a very mission-specific business application, or adding machine learning to incoming cases to know what types of trends we can get out of that to make some forecasts into the future to make better data-driven decisions, right? To be able to do that all on this platform really is the key to finding success in all the different areas that we've found already across these different enterprises, across these different industries. And really today what our goal is to show you a little glimpse into what we're doing now with the continuous authorization and monitoring application, our new focus for how we're going to take integrated risk management kind of to the new level, to the next level, right? And now this is kind of a little bit of an eye chart, but just wanted to give you an overview so you could see this, maybe review it later if you need to, but it's a high level view of all of the different applications that continuous authorization and monitoring application is going to actually be able to leverage all the different components and features of, so that you're actually getting all of these core platform capabilities built right into this new CAM product that we want to talk about today. And then finally, what's the point of all this, right? Our customers in federal specifically, they're seeing that this new CAM app that was built in federal, right, built on the platform, born out of federal, really the goal of it is to get to faster ATOs. We're seeing reduction in times of weeks, if not months at a time, to a point where on average so far it's been 75% increase in speed. And then faster, cutting testing time in half, cutting assessment time in half. And undoubtedly the ability to have that continuous real-time view of risk, that ability to have visibility from a granular to a 30,000 foot view level, right, through different dashboarding, reporting, and analytics capabilities, it's really opened up the ability for security and risk to be more nimble and more agile in the federal space, which we really haven't seen previously. So I really think we're ready for a digital shift, a transformative shift that's coming very soon to federal, and I'm happy to be a part of that with ServiceNow. With that, I want to turn it over to Todd Huber to show you what we mean on the platform through from a quick preview today of our CAM product. So with that, take it away, Todd.
Thank you, Hoss, and thank you, Ben, for the introduction earlier. I'm going to share out my screen here. Okay, is my screen share and voice coming through clearly?
Yes, it is.
Great, thanks. Okay, we'll get started off with the with a look at the authorization boundary process in CAM, and then we'll follow a package through the RMF steps from prepare all the way up until monitor, and then we'll look at how continuous monitoring is accomplished with the continuous monitoring indicators here on the platform in CAM, and then we'll look at some dashboards and reports at the end. So here to start off, we are looking at an authorization boundary in CAM right now. And this is a form in RMF, and the top of this form contains the identifying information, such as who the system owner is and the information owners, as well as the system users, and also whether or not this is a mission critical authorization boundary and the operational status, whether or not it's under development, actually in use in production right now, or ultimately retired. The middle of the screen here is where we keep the diagrams and artifacts, such as the network diagram, the data flow diagram, and the enterprise architecture. That's where these files will be uploaded that can be populated into the SSP once we get to that step in the process. So when it comes to authorization boundaries, it's really about what we are protecting with the RMF framework. And in this case, these are the system elements that are a part of this authorization boundary. These can be your applications or system assets, whatever is going to be a part of your authorization boundary will be identified right here. And these system elements can be populated one of two ways. They can be added in manually. You would click the new button on the top left of the screen and add in the asset or the application or the process or service, or it could be populated from a boundary filter. And you could determine the difference between the two in the far right column where it says from filter. If this one says true, we want to filter that out. And we can see the assets that were populated into this boundary based on being added in manually. And these are the three system elements that have been added in manually. And when it comes to authorization boundaries in CAM, it's kind of an anomaly, because throughout my career, I've always heard the conversation about security versus compliance. You can be secure or you can be compliant, but you can't be both, because you only have so many resources to expend. And if you're going to expend those resources on being compliant, security is going to lack, and vice versa. But this is a situation where you can accomplish both, and you accomplish both with the power of the platform and with automation. And in this situation, we do that by dynamically updating authorization boundaries with these boundary filters. So this first filter we're going to look at right now, it looks at data that we have in the platform, and it's looking for data in the configuration item table, the CMDB CI table. And it's looking for all of the configuration items in the 1HR data subnet. So any asset that's connected to the network that has an IP address within this range will dynamically be added to the authorization boundary. Another example of that would be the Windows servers in the San Diego data center. We can take a look at this filter, and this works the same way as the prior one. It's going to look at the computer table in the database, and it's going to look for these two conditions: is the operating system, is it a Windows server, Windows 2008 R2 server, and is it in the location of San Diego? If any of the assets meet that criteria, then it will be dynamically added into the boundary. So that accomplishes compliance by ensuring the boundary is always up to date with assets that should be applicable to that boundary, and it's making sure that security is accomplished by ensuring that all of the security controls that should be applied to these assets are actually applied. Yes, when you add a computer system to a network, it's going to get the GPOs and things like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will be protected by all of the security controls in place. But by always having the assets in the boundary that belong there, we can ensure that that process takes place. So once we have this authorization boundary defined, we are ready to push that over and create an authorization package for that. And step 0 or step 1 is the prepare step. And this is where we're going to put the groundwork together for who's going to be a part of this package, and other information like if privacy will be applicable to it. This package, like most things in ServiceNow, is a workflow. And when we developed CAM, we saw a lot of workflows and the need for automation to automate those processes to make them more manageable overall. So across the top of the screen, you can see the chevrons that indicate where we are currently in the workflow lifecycle, and we are in the prepare step right here. And this is where you'll put your identifying information in at the top of the screen right here with your acronym and your mission business process areas, whether or not the package is active. And then when we move down to the middle of the screen, there are a few tabs right here that will be filled out in this step. First of which is the roles and responsibilities. This is where you would define your system owner, who the authorizing official is, or their designated representative, who's going to be the security control assessor, and other roles like ISSM and ISSO. And the CAM is not a static solution that we provide to our customers that our customers have to adapt to. It's a framework that can be adapted to our customers' needs. And this is an example of that here. If you work in an organization that does not have an ISSM and you have a CISO, you could just right-click that label for that interface item, click configure label, change that to CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, and then that change will propagate across all your authorization packages. This is also where you would determine if privacy would need to be accommodated within this package, and that would be done with this questionnaire right here on the PTA PIA tab. If any of these questions would be answered yes, then a privacy impact assessment would need to be completed, and a respondent would be picked to respond to the PIA, and that would be sent out to them either here in the platform or out on the service portal. This is what that privacy impact assessment would look like. And this, again, this is very configurable in CAM and in the platform. These are the questions that have been put together for this privacy impact assessment. And once it's sent out to the end user, this is what that would look like to be responded to. So it's a collection of questions and fields where the answer can be provided. And this is what we provide out of the box for a privacy impact assessment, but this could be modified or changed, add or remove content to meet the needs of the customer and their agency requirements. So once we have the package prepared, have the privacy addressed, have the roles and responsibilities assigned, then we would be ready to move this package off to the next step in the process, which would be to categorize. And that would be accomplished by clicking the categorize button, which would send this package off for approval before it could move on to the next step. Are there any questions, comments, concerns at this point? We've gone through the first two steps, and if there are, I'd be happy to address them at this point. Okay, moving along. This is now this package is moved to the select phase, and this is where we'll perform our control tailoring to make sure that the applicable controls are a part of this package. The bottom of the screen here, these are the related lists that contain information that's relevant to this package at this current step, and you'll see this list grow as we these related lists grow as we progress through the life cycle of the package. Oh, my apologies. We'll go back to the categorize stage. I went one tab too far in my browser. Okay, so during the categorization step of this process, this is where we need to determine the information types that will drive the impact levels based on the data that's going to be part of the package. Haas touched on this earlier, and this is where we would accomplish that in the platform. By clicking edit at that tab, we will see all of the information types that are provided by NIST here in the left-hand window. And as we would select them and move them into the window on the right, this is where the information type list will be. And then once all of those information types have been selected, as we go back here into the platform, we can see the impact levels here on this tab, the impact tab. So based on the recommended levels, the high watermark for this package would be high for the impact level of the data. But you also have the ability to override the recommended impact levels here in the right side of the screen, provide a justification statement below in this window that could be reviewed by the authorizing official or their designated representative prior to moving the package on to the next step. So once we have the impact level determined of what this package will be, this one will be high. That's when the controls are populated in this tab at the bottom of the screen. And these are the baseline controls prior to any control tailoring taking place. So once this package has been approved by requesting approval, the top right of the screen, we will move on to the next step again for which is the select phase. Here we're at the bottom of the screen again in these related lists, and that controls tab has switched to baseline controls because these are the baseline controls prior to any control tailoring. And here within the control list at the bottom, to change the status of a control to need to implement that's an applicable control, or inherited or not implemented, which would reflect in a not applicable control, or if we want to establish this as a common control that will provide inheritance to other packages, we could make that change right here in the far right common control column. Once we've performed our control tailoring, then we can see the results of that in these additional related lists. So here's the not applicable controls that are going to be identified here, the ones that we inherited from other packages. And after the privacy overlay would be applied, because this is a system that contains privacy data, and we have tailored out our controls for not applicable and inherited, this would be the control set that is ultimately applicable to this package. But one important aspect about CAM is related to control inheritance. And that's how we're able to provide complete visibility into the controls that we are inheriting from as part of the process here in the application. We'll look at this acceptance of PIV credentials control for an example. And this is what the system owner and the authorizing official would have access into when they're determining whether or not they want to accept the risk of inheriting this control. Because the package that we are inheriting from is on the platform, we get full visibility into that common control that's providing inheritance. This is the control objective, which is the control template, so to speak, when it comes to the requirement of what needs to be accomplished for the control itself. And once these control objectives are scoped out to entities such as an authorization package, then controls are generated. So this is the control objective. We can see information about this overall control objective, the compliance score percentage, the reference control that this comes from, any parent information, as well as the controls themselves. So the control we're inheriting from in our OneHR package is the GSS tech package. So we can click into this control and see where it's at in its life cycle, any additional risks that are associated with this control, open issues, and all the related information that's pertinent to this control. We can see this control is in a draft state, and it doesn't have any work applied to it. It has not been implemented. So that's information that the system owner for OneHR and the authorizing official would be able to take into account when determining whether or not they would like to accept the risk of inheriting that control. The next step in the process would be to move over to the assessment step. And this, once a package moves over to assess, that's when assessment engagement would be created for a security control assessor to come in here and take a look at all these controls and conduct their assessment. In the middle section of the screen, under the control assessments tab, we can drill into the actual assessment itself and see some information about that. Up until this point, I've been logged in as myself, an administrator on the system, but right now we are logged in as Stephen Cruz Alba, who is the security control assessor. So we're able to see this process from the perspective of a security control assessor. This is the engagement in the platform here, and this draws heavily from the audit management application in the IRM portfolio of applications with ServiceNow. And the top of the screen, again, this is where the identifying information would be entered in for the planned and the planned start and end date for the engagement. If there are additional auditors or approvers, that's where this would be defined. In the middle of the screen, we have the schedule tab for the planned and actual start and end dates of the overall engagement, as well as the field work. Once the assessment has been completed, then the results could be entered here: satisfactory, adequate, inadequate, as well as the opinion justification statement from the assessor. When the assessment's completed, a report will be generated, and a template can be selected for that report. It'll have a knowledge base article number assigned to it, and it can be published out in the service portal as a knowledge base article. And anyone with permissions to access that assessment report will be able to see that report right from the service portal. At the bottom of the screen, this is kind of the nuts and bolts of the audit engagement, the assessment. We can see that the entities tab here identifies that the OneHR authorization package is the entity that is in scope for this audit engagement. And by scoping out the engagement to that entity, that brings in all of the risks and the controls and all the other related information to those assets and processes and services and applications that are part of the authorization boundary and package. So these are the risks that are currently present in the for the assets in the authorization boundary. This is the control library. So all of the controls, not just the ones after tailoring has been accomplished, but all of the baseline controls to determine whether or not those controls should be applicable or not, or inherited. All the controls will be looked at. And the test plans that are established at the control objective level, they are also brought in from the control objectives that relate back to the controls. And this is where the assessor would look at the design and operation of the control itself. So these are the design expectations and the assessment procedures for the assessor. This was populated out from the NIST guidance, and the actual operation test. So what they need to do to test this control. Moving on to other tabs here in the related list. Any indicators, continuous monitoring indicators that we'll take a closer look at here shortly. Any results from those indicators will be displayed here. And these are the actual audit tasks that the auditor needs to complete as part of this audit engagement. This is we'll look at the first one here for resume all business and all business missions and functions. And this is the actual control test that the auditor will complete as part of their assessment. And here they'll get a chance to look at those indicator results. They'll be able to record their activities, whether it's a walkthrough or analyzing system logs or an interview. Those activities can be tracked and logged here. The control test approval. So once this control has been tested, the approver of the audit engagement, that approval will be identified right there. Any additional observations made by the auditor during the course of the assessment, those can be added in right here in this tab, and evidence requests. So this is something from my time as a practitioner that was a very manual process, and it was not elegant by any means. It would involve a lot of emails, tracking in a spreadsheet, storing the artifacts in SharePoint or in an ANA tool or in a shared drive someplace. But in the platform, this process is really streamlined and it's very effective. So right from that control test, an auditor is able to come in and request evidence directly to either the group responsible for the control or an individual responsible for the control. They can provide a short description of what they're looking for, additional information in the description box, and let them know what it's for, whether it's for an audit or for control compliance, and if it's an internal audit, external audit, design effectiveness, whatever the reason is, it can be input right there and submitted, which will go out to the respondent, and they will have until the due date to respond with the evidence or get on the list. All of the evidence that's requested will be identified in this evidence tab right here, and any of the issues that have been uncovered by the assessor related to this control will be identified in this tab right here. Back into the overall assessment engagement, once all the control tests have been performed, the issues that have been derived from those control tests will be identified here in this tab, and other issues that were uncovered that were not necessarily part of any of the test plans, they can be recorded here, and the assessor can input the time that they worked on the assessment here in this time work tab. So back over into the package record. We can see that this package is ready to move on to the authorized step. So the assessment report that is generated once the assessment is completed, as well as the SSP and other information, will go over to the authorizing official to review for whether or not they want to approve the package for final authorization. To generate the SSP, this button right here, click the Generate Reports button, and an SSP will automatically be generated based on that one click of the Generate Reports button, and an SSP will be generated for the authorizing official. To generate system security plans in the platform, we leverage templates for that. Like most of the artifacts or documents that are generated in the platform, it's template driven, and this SSP is no different from that. Out of the box, we provide the FedRAMP SSP template for SSP generation, and that leverages platform functionality of being able to use variables to populate different information here in the SSP. So when we look at the title page in the SSP itself, we'll see the authorization boundary name on the title page. As we scroll down, we'll also see some additional variables that will pull in the data, such as the boundary name here and the acronym and the privacy sensitivity level. So this is the SSP template, and there are other ANA tools I've used in the past where the SSP was the SSP, and there was no ability to make any changes to that to accommodate our individual needs at the agencies that I was with. But within the platform, you can make those changes here at the template level to really tailor the SSP to exactly what you're looking for to meet your needs. And this is an example of an SSP that's been generated. The 1HR identifier here has been pulled in based on that variable being used in the template. And we can scroll down past this past the boilerplate and identifying information at the top here, and see that the information system name that's been populated based on a variable, and the acronym abbreviation that's been populated, the systems and security level that's been populated. So we're able to generate an SSP outside of individual identifying information that would have to be put in. Regardless, we can generate that with one button. So once the authorizing official has analyzed that SSP, has looked at all the other information related to the package, has looked at the assessment report and signed off on the package, then we'll move over to the monitor state. So we can see that this package has gone all the way through the workflow lifecycle, from prepare all the way up through authorize, and now we're in a monitoring state. We can scroll down through the through the form right here and see that there's been a lot of tabs added to this middle section as well as the bottom section, and we'll go through a few of those now. This is the risk summary right here that compiles all of the information that's related to this package that's drawn from multiple areas within the platform. So we can see the number of change requests that are that exist for this package, number of security incidents or other incidents, number of total vulnerable items that's pulled in from vulnerability scanning, and the vulnerability average risk score, as well as the change request average risk score. All this information is pulled in from other data that's out there on the platform. Down to the bottom, back into the related lists, the baseline controls and controls that were established during the control tailoring select step are identified there. Any of the control tests that fail, that issues were generated from, that were not able to be resolved during the course of the package creation and authorization, would be identified here in the POAM tab. POAMs are defined as issues here in the platform, and this, like everything else we've seen, is workflow driven, and the workflow lifecycle chevrons are at the top of the screen right there. The dates of when the POAM needs to be resolved by are in the middle of the screen here, as well as any assessment engagements that this POAM would be tied back to. And the bottom of the screen, this is more related information. So if there are policy exceptions that exist out there related to the controls that this POAM is applicable to, this could be brought in for consideration at this tab. Any issues that are out there related to this to the control that this POAM is mapped back to, as well as indicator results, control tests, and the task activities. So the tasks that need to be accomplished to close out this POAM, as well as the milestones that need to be met during the life cycle of the POAM workflow. Back into the monitor package, into the package record for the form for this package in the monitor state. We can see other information related to the detailed information related to the package that expands on what we see here in the impact tab. So all of the change requests, we can drill into this actual change request and see that information. The incidents, as well as the security incidents, they can be identified here in this related list. We can drill into these for additional information. The vulnerable items, so if you're using Tenable or ACAS to perform your vulnerability scans, when those scans are brought onto the platform in the security operations application, then we can access all of that vulnerability item data from the vulnerability item tables and display those here. So we wouldn't have to go to another tool to see the vulnerabilities associated with your package. You could see that right here from within the package, because all the data is on the platform, that single source of truth. software that's installed on the assets and other applications that are part of the package would be identified here. So you have a dynamically updated near real-time software list at any given time for a package. And lastly, some risk information here. So any risk acceptance tasks that are out there for the issues, as well as the open risks that are associated with the assets, processes, services, or applications that are part of the package, and where they are in terms of their inherent and residual risk and their control compliance percentage. Now, to monitor this package continuously with digital continuous monitoring, we use continuous monitoring indicators. And I've mentioned these quite a few times up until this point, because this is an excellent feature within ServiceNow and within CAM, because we're able to actually accomplish real digital continuous monitoring. And we do that with 3 different types of indicators. First would be a manual indicator, because there are some tasks that need to be accomplished manually. Say if you want to do your annual review of privileged access accounts, that's a manual process. A person actually has to put eyes on the screen and fingers on the keyboard to do that. We still provide an indicator that's workflow driven in the platform to accommodate and track and maintain that process. Another is a script indicator, which can interface with a third-party tool, as long as that third-party tool supports integration. If it has an API, if you can access and integrate with that third-party tool, we can write a script indicator that can pull the data in from that third-party tool to be analyzed for control compliance. And the last is a basic indicator. And that indicator will look at the data that currently exists on the platform. This indicator that we're looking at now pertains to active vulnerability items older than 5 days. And this is the control that indicator is monitoring. The critical vulnerabilities on CIs are required to be patched. So this basic indicator will be run on a schedule of the customer's choosing. It could be daily, weekly, quarterly, yearly, whatever the frequency is to meet the need of that control. It would look at this source table, the vulnerable item table in the database, in the platform, and it would go through these supporting data fields right here. The base criteria that this indicator will use is looking to see if any vulnerabilities are in some state of being open and have an age of greater than 5 days. If that indicator runs and any of the vulnerabilities meet this criteria, then the status of that indicator will be failed. And when that indicator fails, a few things happen in the background dynamically without user intervention. One is this control will be taken from a compliant state to a non-compliant state, and an issue will be generated for that control and assigned out to the control owner to bring that control back into compliance. And the only way that control can be brought back into compliance is if the control owner provides a control attestation with justification and evidence to show that the control is compliant, or if the indicator runs again and does not fail and passes, then the control can be brought back into compliance. So we can see this is a non-compliant state right here, and the indicator result at the bottom of the screen in the related list shows that this is the indicator that failed. The last result at the bottom right of the screen shows that it's false, and that's why this control is in a non-compliant state. And keep in mind, all of that happened dynamically in the background without any user intervention. So where continuous monitoring manually would be an extremely cumbersome process, just to take this one control, for example, that looks at vulnerabilities, you would have to look at vulnerabilities across every single asset in this boundary and do so on a regular basis to see if any are older than 5 days. That's a very time-consuming manual process that otherwise would not be accomplished without an automated control, continuous monitoring indicator like this right here. And the way that we track all of this information and data, that from the authorization boundary all the way up until the tracking controls and packages that are in a monitor state, we do that with dashboards and reports. Some of these dashboards we provide out of the box to to assist in that process. Others we've created just to show the full capabilities of the platform. An example of that are these RMF tasks. And these have been put together to show how many tasks out there are open, in progress, closed, or closed complete, closed incomplete, based on the step in the process. We also have a breakdown of the POAMs, and these are applicable to the particular authorization boundaries. We also have a calendar view here in the middle of the screen that shows any RMF tasks that are coming due this month. So when it comes time to delegate resources and plan out work, that you have a nice top-down calendar view of all tasks that need to be completed, and as well as some other additional information down here like boundary statuses and mission critical boundaries. Is very important for FSMA audits and boundaries connected to the CMDB. Other information here about authorization packages that's displayed here. And one of the great things about these reports and these dashboards is that they can be shared out dynamically. And I know from my time as a practitioner that I spent hours every week on metrics and reporting and data calls, and it was a big time sink for me and kept me away from other things that would be more productive. But here in the platform, we can automate this reporting process, and you can determine who you want these reports to be shared with based on their roles and permissions. Add these reports to dashboards, export it to a PDF to send out via email, publish it to a web page here within the ServiceNow instance, or the best feature, in my opinion, is to email these reports out. So you determine your frequency, who's going to get this report. Both internal and external users can get this. Give it a subject, fill out the body text, and you can automate mailing out your reports on an interval of your choosing. You can also drill down into these reports with filters to get even more granular information, and you can nest these reports within themselves. So you can have a high-level report, and so you can have an overall package status report would be your top level, and then you could drill down into the individual packages with the drill downs. The other tabs here show what we show the dashboards and reports that we provide out of the box that track your baseline controls, as well as POAMs, and lastly the assessment activity out here in the for the assessments that are taking place. And that is our high-level overview of the continuous authorization and monitoring application. And I will pass it back to Hoss and Ben for questions and comments. Thank you.
So thank you, Hoss. Thank you, Todd. I think we answered all of the questions. And there's a lot to go over that we put into this continuous authorization and monitoring app. So if anybody needs to have a follow-up or a deeper dive more in line with you as the customer or with your customers, please let us know. We'll be happy to do that. And I want to thank everybody for joining, and hopefully everybody got something out of this. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. Quite informative. Thank you. We'll follow up.
Thank you, folks. Have a great day.
Thanks all. Bye.